esophagitis. Esophagus is normally devoid of eosinophils, and the common causes of GI eosinophilia include GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, eosinophilic GI disorders, which are known as the primary subtype, eosinophilic esophagitis, which can be familial or connective tissue associated, eosinophilic gastritis, eosinophilic enteritis, eosinophilic gastroenteritis. The other causes include celiac disease, HES, drug hypersensitivity response, IBD, transplant-associated eosinophilic enteritis, eosinophilic granulomatosis with polyangiitis, toxic injury, graft versus host disease, infections including schistosomiasis and toxocariasis. Etiology: the food allergy incidence of 0.1 to 1.2 per 10,000, and which is the second most common cause of chronic esophagitis. Coming to the pathogenesis, it involves the genetic, environmental, and host immune system factors. The environmental factors include the hypothesis of hygiene and bacterial dysbiosis, aeroallergen air conditions and chemical modifications in cultivation, processing, and packing of food, decrease in H. pylori, GERD resulting in the injury of the intraepithelial junction, and increased allergen permeability and PPI use. The immunogenetic factors include the genetic risk factors, the genes encoding eotaxin 3, TSLP, filaggrin, DSG1, STAT6, calpain 14, CRFL2. This overexpression of thymocyte stimulating lymphopoietin, that is TSLP, cause activation of Th2 lymphocytes, which activate basophils, and secretion of interleukin 4, 5, 13, CCL13 and CCL14, which activates STAT5 and 6 pathways. These STAT pathways regulates molecules such as eotaxin 3, calpain 14, and DSG1. So this is the pictorial representation of the pathogenesis, where the environmental factors like GERD, decreased H. pylori, increased use of PPI, aeroallergens, allergens-induced food, causes the overexpression of TSLP or interleukin 33, which acts on the TSLP receptor, causing the upregulation of the Th2 lymphocyte, causing the increased secretion of interleukins 4 and 13, regulating the STAT6 and 5 pathway, causing increased eotaxin 3 and also decreased filaggrin, calpain 14, and decreased DSG1. This overexpression of TSLP also activates the NK cell, mast cell, and basophils to produce more TGF beta 1, which also results in the intercellular junction lesions in the esophageal epithelium. So interleukin 13 induces secretion of two molecules in the esophageal epithelium, that is previously mentioned eotaxin 3, which is a chemokine that attracts eosinophils to the esophagus, which causes the remodeling and deposition of collagen in the esophageal tissue. Calpain 14 is a proteolytic enzyme specific to the esophagus that cleaves the DSG1, leads to the disruption of the esophageal epithelial barrier. Interleukin 13 also decreases the production of DSG1 and decreases filaggrin that is present in the stratum corneum. TGF beta 1 produced by the mast cells and eosinophils contribute to the epithelial barrier dysfunction by decreased Claudin 7, which is an intracellular tight junction protein. Now coming to the diagnosis and clinical features, the international consensus diagnostic criteria for EOE is symptoms of esophageal dysfunction, concomitant atopic condition, endoscopic findings, that is rings, grooves, exudates, stenosis, luminal narrowing, and fragility of mucosa or crepe mucosa, more than 15 eosinophils per high power field or 60 eosinophils per meter square in esophageal biopsy. Eosinophilic infiltration should be isolated to the esophagus alone, and evaluation of disorders other than the eosinophilic esophagitis that potentially contribute to the esophageal eosinophilia. Then symptoms of eosinophilic esophagitis varies with patient's age. In infants and toddlers, the feeding difficulties, vomiting or pain may be the presenting symptoms, and in the adolescents is more of dysphagia. Eosinophilic esophagitis in children is often associated with manifestation of atopic diathesis like food allergy, asthma, eczema, chronic rhinitis, environmental allergies. In adults, dysphagia, chest pain, and food impaction contribute to the major presenting symptoms with upper abdomen pain also. Solid food dysphagia is the most common symptom. Coming to the diagnosis, extensive allergy evaluation looking for the food allergy and the aeroallergen sensitization by skin prick test or IgE levels, evaluation of food protein sensitization by delayed skin patch testing increases the identification of food allergy compared with skin prick testing alone. Exclusion of GERD and other causes of esophageal eosinophilia is required, and there is no physical examination that is specific for making the diagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis. Endoscopic findings include fixed esophageal rings or trachealization, transient esophageal rings, whitish exudates, longitudinal furrows, edema, diffuse esophageal narrowing, narrow caliber esophagus, esophageal laceration because of the mucosal friability, giving a crepe paper appearance. Now, comparing the eosinophilic esophagitis with GERD, the clinical features, the prevalence of esophageal esophagitis is less compared to GERD, that is 1 in 1000 compared to the GERD of 1 in 10. The prevalence of atopy and prevalence of food sensitization is very high in eosinophilic esophagitis compared to the GERD, and gender preference is more common in male in eosinophilic esophagitis. Abdominal pain and vomiting are common symptoms in both conditions, and food impaction is more common and most commonly seen in eosinophilic esophagitis. Investigative findings: the pH probe and impedance study is abnormal in GERD, and endoscopic furrowing is seen in eosinophilic esophagitis. Coming to the histopathology and pathogenesis, involvement of both proximal and distal esophagus is seen in eosinophilic esophagitis, whereas the GERD involves more of the distal esophagus. Epithelial hyperplasia is seen in eosinophilic esophagitis, and eosinophil levels in the mucosa is more than 15 per high power field. In GERD, it is 0 to 7 per high power field. Elevated eotaxin 3 levels is seen in eosinophilic esophagitis, and the response to PPI is seen in both conditions, but the eosinophil levels remain more than 15 per high power field even if treated with PPI in eosinophilic esophagitis. Glucocorticoids are helpful in eosinophilic esophagitis, and specific food, antigen elimination, and elemental diet are helpful in eosinophilic esophagitis, where it's not helpful in GERD. Radiography is not recommended as a routine diagnostic test. Coming to the treatment, it includes 3 Ds: diet, drug, and dilatation. Dietary options include testing directed elimination diet, empiric elimination diet, and elemental diet. Coming to each one, testing directed elimination diet, the skin prick testing, atopy patch test done for food allergy with subsequent elimination of food for positive results, plus cow's milk because of its poor negative predictive value on testing. Empiric elimination diet, that is 6 food elimination diet. Milk, egg, soy, wheat, peanut, and shellfish are the 6 elimination diet ingredients. The adults, 60% have wheat, milk 50%, soy 10%, nuts 10%, eggs 5%. Pediatric, more commonly milk 35%, egg 13%, wheat 12%, and soy 19%. So when reintroduction is done, it's done in the reverse order. So in case of adults, the eggs are reintroduced first, whereas in pediatric, the soy is reintroduced first, and in adults, wheat being the last, and in pediatric, milk being the last. Now coming to the elemental diet, elemental formula feeds includes extensively hydrolyzed casein-based formulas, extensively hydrolyzed whey-based formulas, and amino acid-based formulas. Now there are studies comparing 6 food elimination diet versus modified 6 food elimination diet and elemental diet. The modified SFED is SFED plus skin pricking test eliminated diet. in which the superiority is seen in elemental diet compared to SFED and modified SFED, wherein the histological remission of 98% is seen with elemental diet compared to 81% with SFED and modified SFED 65%. Limited data of elemental diet on adults show similar efficacy, but adherence is difficult in adults compared to the pediatric population. 72% have shown histologic resolution. Now coming to the drugs, PPI treatment is given for 8 weeks, initially once daily for 4 weeks. If symptoms fail to improve, then twice daily for next 4 weeks. Benefit is either by decreasing the acid production and anti-inflammatory mechanism. Meta-analysis have shown a clinical response in 61% of the patients with histological response in 51% of the patients. The next is topical glucocorticoids, where budesonide, fluticasone propionate, and cyclosonate is used. The ingestion of corticoids in a viscous vehicle such as sucralose was more effective than inhaled. 2 mg of budesonide or 880 microgram of fluticasone in a viscous solution once a day. In cyclosonide, 80 to 160 microgram, 2 sprays twice daily for 2 months. The clinical remission is seen in 31%, endoscopic remission in 49%, histological remission in 45%, and complete remission in 16% is seen compared with the placebo in a maintenance therapy of 5-year follow-up of these topical glucocorticoids. Histological improvement is directly proportional to the higher mucosal contact time, hence a viscous solution may be a much better vehicle for the drug. Orodispersible tablets are also being tried, where 1 milligram of budesonide twice a day has shown 100% histological remission. Now coming to the other modalities of treatment where biologicals are being studied, monoclonal antibody against interleukin-13, a randomized controlled trial comparing with the placebo 180 and 360 milligram for 16 weeks. A significant reduction in the eosinophil count, endoscopic severity, and histology was seen, but no significant improvement in dysphagia was noticed. Next is the monoclonal antibody against the alpha subunit of interleukin-4, which is known as the dupilumab, inhibits interleukin-4 and 13 signaling. RCT shown benefits on dysphagia, histology, and endoscopy. Monoclonal antibody against interleukin-5, which is the mepolizumab, the role of eosinophil recruitment is the one that is being inhibited and which has shown variable reports. Another drug in this class is the deslizumab. No significant difference than placebo in the studies done. The next drug is the anti-IgE monoclonal antibody, that is omalizumab, improvement in allergic symptoms, but no endoscopic or histological improvement. Anti-TNF therapy using infliximab, no role has so far been shown. PGD2 receptor antagonist, that is a chemoattractant receptor molecule on Th2, that is a receptor mediating chemotaxis. Other modalities include antihistamines, cromolyn, Montelukast, purine analogs. None of this has shown any clear benefit. Now coming to the prognosis and complications. This is a chronic disease. If left untreated, can develop into progressive esophageal scarring and dysfunction. Food impaction can occur in 30 to 55% of the cases and stricturing in 11 to 31%. Esophageal tear, which can be both full thickness or partial because of the friability of the mucosa. Esophageal dilatation for relief of dysphagia, not to be taken as a primary therapy without concomitant medical or dietary therapy, as this will not address the inflammatory process. Through the scope of Buji dilators can be used, gradual dilatation, that the target goal of 15 to 18 mm and dilatation diameter 3 mm per session. Complications are seen in younger age group with increasing number of dilatation, narrowing in the upper third, inability to reverse the narrowing with the scope prior to the dilatation are all can be a predictor for complications. Thank you.